Hey everybody, I wanted to bring you a video today talking a little bit about artifacts. I've been thinking about them for a while, and I realized the design of these cards is just not good in my opinion. The design of artifacts, the design of artifact removal as well, is really not a good thing, I don't think, and something I would love to see change in Gwent. I think it's kind of a big problem, despite not affecting that many games, because artifacts aren't that prevalent and artifact removal isn't that prevalent. But I think it is a problem nevertheless that should be addressed, and I'm not really sure why it hasn't been properly addressed yet. I guess CDPR either aren't aware of the problem or don't want to implement changes that would be too drastic without waiting for a patch or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to explain what I think the problems are with artifacts and how I would fix them. I'm going to go into detail a little bit on what I think the purpose of artifacts is, what they should be there for, and how we can accommodate that. So, if I were in charge, yeah, this is what I would do. Anyway, the real issue that people have with artifacts at the moment, which I want to address, is mostly with Spear, Mastercrafted Spear, because this is, this one here. Damage an enemy unit by 1 and refresh whenever you play a unit. This card is effectively an engine. It is an uninteractable engine which you can play, and it will get more value the longer the round. It will generate, more value the longer the round goes on, right? That's what an engine does. And typically engines are interactable because you can remove them in some way. Take, for example, I don't know, a reinforced trebuchet, you destroy it and then it no longer does damage every turn. With a spear, you can't do that unless you have artifact removal. And that's the problem, because artifact removal is super binary in the way it works, right? It either completely gets rid of the spear, or it does nothing at all and is a dead card in hand effectively, giving you very few points. And now what does this lead to? Well, if you have artifact removal in your deck, it leads to a lot of situations where you must gamble on your opponent either having or not having artifacts. You can then get punished or rewarded based on a lack of information, asymmetrical information effectively. And that's a really awful feeling, I think. If you're playing the artifact removal yourself, you either have a dead card in your deck, which may punish you in a matchup where they don't have artifacts, or you keep it. When they have an artifact, you get rewarded, but it feels really bad for the other player because they get no points. So either way, it's kind of a lose-lose situation. No one's really satisfied playing artifacts or artifact removal. And as an artifact player, if you're playing spears, you have that constant lingering threat of, well, maybe they have artifact removal. Maybe I should mulligan away my artifact. And that's something you have to gamble on again as the spear player, right? You have to say, well, I mean, is it worth taking this risk? I don't know. And it's just not a good feeling. It rewards, all sorts of other stuff like stream sniping, scouting opponents, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on, which I think reduces competitive integrity of the game, but that's another story. The real point is, this interaction is super binary, it feels bad for both parties, and I don't think it's healthy for the game at all. But I do think the spear situation, as I'm going to call it, where you have artifact removal versus a spear or whatever, and even against traps, which are actually getting kind of popular in Scoia'tael, there is a problem there, and that is just not very fun gameplay. So I want to find a way to fix that and address that, and I think I have a good solution. And I want to talk about artifacts more generally, and yeah, you'll see how this works. So first things first, what is the point of an artifact? Why would you put one in your deck? And what is the kind of design philosophy behind these guys? Why have we printed these cards? Why has CDPR made these? So I think I like the mechanic of artifacts, let me just say that. I think they're pretty cool. They're a way, you see here in the deck build it says cards with no value, no power value when played on the battlefield. So effectively an artifact is unlike any other card. Spells are technically not immediate points either, but artifacts are kind of a body on the board that is uninteractable. That's kind of how you can think of it. They're points on the board that your opponent can't, touch. Maybe they give you points later on in the round, maybe you use them straight away, but they're this kind of protected safe haven of points, if you like. Things like Frightener or Thunderbolt Potion, right? And often you're paying a premium on the provisions to get that sort of protection and uninteractivity, for that card. Stuff like Thunderbolt is 8 instead of 6, for example. It should be probably 6 since it's only a boost by 6. It's not that great, but you pay an extra couple of provisions to have that, those protected points effectively. So, that's what artifacts are there for, right? They're effectively a sacrifice in tempo in order to protect your points and maybe get points later down the line. Now, this kind of goes contrary to artifact removal being a thing. if artifact removal is a thing that exists, then your points aren't safe. So why are you even paying the premium on artifacts? It doesn't really make any sense. You effectively are forced to take a risk whenever you play an artifact for no reason, even though you're already paying a premium on not taking a risk, effectively. Artifacts are supposed to be a safe way to get your points, a safe way to maybe, I don't know, develop some strategy like with Black Blood or with a Pitfall Trap or whatever. They're supposed to be safe points, but yet we have artifact removal, which just nukes them completely and destroys them. And it's not even granular, it's just completely get rid of all the points. You get nothing from this a lot of the time. Some cards is an exception, of course. Tainted Ale, Spear, you get some immediate value, etc. But basically what I'm saying is I don't think artifacts are designed to be removed. I don't think they're there to be removed. I think they're there, in my world, in the way I see things, I think they should be a card that you play to have a safe, amount of points that you can then, you sacrifice the tempo, you get the points later, whatever. Okay. So I would say there doesn't even need to be artifact removal in the game. This might be a bit controversial, and I know a lot of people like the idea of doing damage to artifacts or whatever. I don't even think that's necessary. I think if you stat and provision cost-wise stat these cards correctly, then it should make it fun for everyone. You can play artifacts and feel good about it. You can play against them and not feel too bad. Gotta imagine it like this. Say you play an artifact, and right now, if you play a spear, your opponent plays one, right? You go, oh god, no, spear in the long round, I'm so screwed, I should have put artifact removal in your deck. Vice versa, if you play a spear and you get artifact removed, you're like, oh, this is so bad, I just lost, I played a 1-point card, he played a 5-point card or whatever with Nithrol. You get the idea, right? So my simple idea is just make these cards balanced in terms of provisions and the points they give. Take into account the fact that they can't be removed and add in interactivity into the card so that your opponent can play around it. Things like Pitfall Trap. We've got Pitfall Trap, which you can often play around by expecting it or seeing that your opponent might have a Pitfall Trap on the board. You then play your weaker card so it gets destroyed instead of a stronger one. That's interactivity, even though you're not destroying the artifact. You don't have to destroy the opponent's artifact to interact with it. And I don't know why that seems to be the design philosophy, is we need interactivity with these cards. Therefore, we will print a card that just destroys it. I really, really hate that. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't see why you can't have interactivity with these cards, without completely denying their value outright. There's more examples of this. For example, we could take Black Blood, right? Your opponent plays this. You can play around it. You can just boost your own guy. Maybe you have a small unit. You boost him up, whatever, and then that will make the Black Blood weaker than what the opponent wanted from it. Likewise, Cadaverine, your opponent plays it, you try not to stack your units to the same strength. Do you see what I'm getting at, guys? Basically, artifacts can be played around they can be interacted with without having this binary artifact removal. I don't even understand why it's in the game. I really don't understand it. I think, in my opinion, we should really just have no artifact removal and balance these cards around their effect and their interactivity within the effect. So, would this feel good? I mean, that's a question we have to ask. So Ale of the Ancestors is another one. This one isn't something like Black Blood or Pitfall Trap where you can really play around it. Your opponent's going to play this, they're going to get some value from it. But it seems quite fairly costed, right? 12 provisions for 3 points every 2 turns. So you play a pretty long round, 8 cards go down. This card gets you 12 for 12. All right. It's like playing an engine, right? But then it can't be removed. So it has a premium cost where a normal 12 provision card might immediately get you 12 points or 11 points or whatever it might be. This Ale of the Ancestors has a cost associated with it. It's not going to get the value straight away. Your opponent will be able to pass. They'll be able to, maneuver, play around it in some way. And even when it's at its best, even when it's doing what it's meant to do, it's not broken OP. It's going to be like 12 for 12, maybe even 15 for 12 in a super long round. Okay, wow, that's pretty good. But it's not game breaking. It doesn't feel awful to play against. And it's fair for both parties. They know what they're getting into. One person says, I'll play this card. I'll get this many points from it if the round goes this long. The other person goes, okay, I agree with that. Let's do that. Instead of it being, I will play a 12 provision card, and if it gets removed, I'll get 3 points. And if it doesn't, I'll get X number of points in that case. Basically, I just think artifact removal is breaking the way these interactions should be working. I don't think it should be like that. Now, there's a couple of cards here that might be too strong if you get rid of artifact removal. Stuff like Tainted Ale is already a bit annoying with Hubert. I think that's a bit of a Hubert problem rather than Tainted Ale. You need last say against him to remove him, right? Something like Frightener might be too strong because 12 points. Yes, though, it does have a condition associated with it. You need deck synergy to make it work, or you need your opponent to remove your own stuff. Effectively, guys, I just don't see the place for artifact removal in the game. I really don't. If you balance these cards around the provisions they cost, the points they generate, and the effects, stuff like Black Blood, Cadaverine, great examples of cards that you can play around and work with. Pitfall Trap, Crushing Trap, you can not stack a row to try to deny the value from this. Nature's Gift, don't play a special card. You get the idea, right? There's a lot of ways to play around these cards without having to force that interactivity of either you lose or you win based on this one interaction. I don't really like that. So I don't know if there's much more to say here, guys. That's just what I would suggest for artifacts. I really hope they get changed. And honestly, I really think just taking out artifact removal as a whole would be the way to fix this. And of course, rebalancing artifacts. Spear would need to be toned down, Mastercrafted Shield maybe, because they can get a lot more than 7 points equivalent if they're, removing stuff as well. Take that into account. Basically, yeah. Nerf these cards a bit, raise the provisions, do what you have to do to make them not feel completely broken when they work and awful when they don't. They should be playing out like other cards in the game, I feel, just with the added caveat of being protected points, not easily removable. So you want to see the opponent play this card and you go, okay, they've played an artifact, I'll play around that. I'll do something in this way to manage that. Or you go, okay, that's not a big deal. He played a card that's going to get him some good value. Just like he might play a Unicorn or a Chiron-X or a Witcher trio. But when they play a Spear, it just feels very bad because you feel like you're missing out on some binary interaction, right? So yeah, I think take out artifact removal, rebalance these cards that need rebalancing, and make some more artifacts with interesting effects that can be played around. Things like Black Blood, Cadaverine, even Petrie's Filter is fine, As long as the card isn't too strong, it might see play in some decks. It might spice things up. The great thing about artifacts is, since they don't give immediate points a lot of the time, or the opponent chooses not to use them for immediate points, they can be played around just simply by passing or by abusing that lack of tempo. Now, this isn't so much of a thing in Homecoming Gwent, where hand limit is a thing that exists, but it's still, the point applies. If you know they're playing artifacts, you can maybe push them in round 2, right? They'll have to play like a Frightener, and then what are they going to do? Destroy 3 units? They're not going to be able to do that in one turn, potentially. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit now. The point is, guys, I don't think artifact removal has any place. And I think if you introduce granular damage on artifacts or whatever, they're just gonna become another engine. What's the point? Why have that? That's the same mechanic as we already have in lots and lots of different cards that are getting value over time. I don't think the artifacts need to be interactable at all, other than in the effect that they have and the presence that they have on the board. They shouldn't be doing anything, like they shouldn't be interacted in any other way, because that's the whole premise of artifacts, is they aren't interactable like your normal units are, which damage each other and boost each other. But pretty much that was those are my thoughts on artifacts and how they should be changed. I think it's a pretty interesting one. Let me know if you agree or disagree, but I do think I'm onto a winner on this one, and I really hope there are some changes on this front, because it honestly, to me, just seems like a bit of Dumbo design. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really think it's well designed, these artifacts and artifact removal. It's more a problem with artifact removal than the artifacts themselves. I think that's what's going on. Maybe they're just afraid of having people go, these are uninteractable, we can't do anything. But I don't think people are going to complain if they play a Black Blood and they get a bit of value from it, or they play a Frightener and it pops out because they had some synergy in their deck, or they play a Tainted Ale, Ale of the Ancestors, in a long round, and they get the 12 for 12. Like, people aren't sad about that, they're sad about the binary interactions that are going on, and yeah, that gambling aspect that you always have to risk when you're playing artifact removal, or not. Anyway, tell me what you thought. I really hope CDPR makes some changes in regards to artifacts, especially for the new expansion. If they don't, I will be sad, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.